Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here for the last session of today's workshop. This is a call for healing using mindfulness and wellness practices in academic library programming, marketing, and spaces with Chris Robinson from UNC-Wilmington. And I will turn it over to Chris.
All right. So, greetings, everyone. I'm definitely happy to be here with you all, and thank you for choosing to be here with me for the last session of the day. You could have chosen to be anywhere else, but instead you chose to be here in this session, and I want to take a moment to just acknowledge that. Um, as Amelia has said, this is presentation is called a call for healing using um, mindfulness and wellness practices in academic libraries, programming, marketing spaces, excuse me. But before I tell you about myself and begin the presentation, let's start with a short breathing exercise. This will take us about 3 minutes. And if you are with me, can you either type in the chat or unmute your mic and say, I am taking time to breathe? All right. Thank you for committing to this moment with me. And let's begin our breathing exercise.
Email, send everybody an email
All
out.
right. Can we mute our mics before we get started? Okay. All right. So let's get started. Close your eyes, or you can keep them open, whichever is most comfortable for you. But in this moment, I invite you, when you take your next breath, to simply be more conscious. Allow your breath to bring you into the present moment, here and now. Breathe through your nose. Inhale cool air and nurture yourself. Exhale warm air and expel any tension and negative emotions. Feel your feet connecting you to the floor and to the earth. Gently correct your posture by slowly lifting your chin until the top of your head radiates up towards the sky. Relax your shoulders down like ice melting in a hot spring, and feel your neck growing long. Relax your forehead, relax your eyes, relax your jaw, your ears, your muscles, and the back of your neck. Notice your breath. Allow it to bring you into the present moment where you are safe, relaxed, and doing something positive. Quiet your mind. Let thoughts go like leaves floating in a mountain stream. Bring your attention to your breath. Disengage from the past and from the future. Enjoy fully the present moment. Begin to cultivate an inner peace, a safe place in your heart filled with love and light. Take in one deep breath and slowly exhale. Now, if you've closed your eyes, you're welcome to open them. All right. So let's get started with the presentation. So my name is Chris Robinson. I am the Outreach and Engagement Librarian at Randall Library. And the pictures that you see here is many intersections of me. I enjoy events, programming, outreach, but I also enjoy my alone time, going to the beach, kayaking, um, doing extreme sports. One of my favorite things is zip lining, and also enjoy photography. And I am an artist. And what you see here are seashells that were found at Wrightsville Beach. And I, turned those seashells into various types of flowers for this particular piece of art. All right. So enough about me. So let's take a poll. All right. So if you could go to menti.com and then use the code 2893-5235 and answer the question, does your library incorporate mindfulness and wellness initiatives into its day-to-day operations? Okay, we're getting some polls in. Okay, we got a maybe. Okay, 8 no's, 3 maybes. Give it another minute and see if we get any more. Okay, so it looks like, okay, a lot of your libraries do not incorporate mindfulness or wellness into your day-to-day operations. And we have 3 that say maybe. And I'm interested to know what the maybe is, or maybe I might touch on something within the presentation. But I'm glad to see that there are libraries that are not doing mindfulness and wellness initiatives, because this presentation gives me a great opportunity to share some of the wonderful things that I have worked on here at UNCW in the regards of mindfulness and wellness. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about um, how I came to learn about mindfulness. And it all started when I moved to Wilmington, North Carolina to take the position as outreach and engagement librarian here at UNCW. And during my transition here, it wasn't the easiest for me. There were days where I found myself just working and then going home and not leaving my home until it was time to go to work again. Um, and I just wasn't connecting. I was going through some other things as well. And my supervisor, Anne, she was dedicated to wellness and mindfulness, and she um, has, taught me a lot of the things that I needed to help me um, grow as a person, but also to heal. Um, and she was the first person that made me feel that saying, like, going to therapy is okay. And from my background, uh, saying that, going to see a therapist or saying that you need therapy, um, it's kind of taboo. And but like I said, Anne was the first one that made me feel comfortable, and she introduced me to mindfulness. But unfortunately, um, Anne passed away in June June of 21. And but some of the great things of Anne, like who she was, Anne was a kind person. She was cut from a different cloth. Funny, caring, loving, a ball of energy, a light that would light up a room. And her interest started with mindfulness in her undergraduate studies in psychology. She used mindfulness as both as a coping strategy and as a framework because her mother suffered from multiple sclerosis. And used mindfulness to address her own mental health struggles um, and healing from trauma, depression, and anxiety. She realized that mindfulness could only play um, a role in leadership and mentoring. And she set out to do those things. She incorporated mindfulness more holistically into her life, her personal life, her professional life, and viewed mindfulness as a life choice or a lifestyle rather than a set of individual practices. Um, and her passions were mindfulness, information literacy, and racial justice. And that sums up like Anne. And from Anne, that instilled in me um, different ways to try to incorporate mindfulness, not only in my life, but into my professional work at Randall Library. The library is a busy spot with thousands of students coming and going. It would be amazing to create a small retreat to support students' well-being and ultimately student success. This is a quote that I found when I went back through emails when we were um, thinking about ways to incorporate mindfulness into what we do. And it really stuck out to me uh, that, you know, you have to treat the person holistically and still provide them with the information, the resources, the things that a library, you know, does or serves. Um, and excuse me, I need to take a sip of water. Pardon me. Next slide. So we get into what is mindfulness? What is wellness? Would anyone like to share what any of these words mean to them? And actually, no, there's a poll. So when thinking of the word mindfulness, what other words come to mind? Take a moment to go to menti.com and type in the code 2893-5235. Yes, that's the key. Being present, presence, yeah, peace, calm, reflection, attention. Yes. Yep. Self. That was a good one. Deliberate. That's a good one too. Yes, all of these are great. And yes, these are all parts of mindfulness. According to Merriam-Webster, um, actually, no, let's not do that first. Let's do this. So mindfulness is, again, being aware of the present moment, intentionality, acting with purpose, introspective, reflective, or transformative. Transcendent, it can be transcendent, meditative, living in the moment, a shift from doing to being, a lifestyle choice. All right, let's go to the next slide. Oh, I like the love. Love is a good one. That is actually an important and very important one. So according to Merriam-Webster, what is mindfulness? The quality or state of being mindful, the practice of maintaining a non-judgmental state of heightened or complete awareness of one's thoughts, emotions, or experiences on a moment-to-moment basis, such as a state of awareness. Now, according to the literature or the research, again, it's still the same, paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present, non-judgmentally, observe, describe, non-judgment. And is this the key? Non-judgment, non-reactive, acting with awareness. What is this symbol and what does it mean? Does anyone know? You can put it in the chat or unmute your mic. Any takers? Water rippling, that is a part of it, but it's not the main purpose of the symbol. This is actually the symbol. No, actually, it's the symbol for mindfulness. And the first time I was ever introduced to it, again, it was Anne. Anne actually had a tattoo of this symbol on her arm. And the top part, well, actually, next slide. So this symbol, it means tranquility, the present, stillness, and awareness. And the top is the future. The rippling area, the middle, that's the present, the here and now, and your space. And then the bottom is the past. And then, of course, you have time and you have space. And this is the symbol for mindfulness. And now this here is also what I found in the literature. And it talks about mindfulness, and it's more so choosing what you want to do. So it's like your actions. You can either choose a positive action reaction, or you can choose a negative reaction. You can choose to be present in the current moment, or you could choose not to be. And same with attitude. You can choose to have a positive attitude, a kind attitude, or you can have a negative. So mindfulness, again, is a choice, but it's a choice that you have to constantly practice and incorporate into your day-to-day life. And that goes for personally or professionally. All right, so then now this poll is, when thinking of the word wellness, what are other words that come to mind? Self-care, yes. Health, wholeness, stability, physical, grounded, wholeness, joy, love, able to cope, balance. Yep, these are all part of wellness. Now let's go again to the dictionary and then to the literature. So next slide. So again, according to Merriam-Webster, the quality or state of being in good health, especially as an actively sought goal, lifestyles that promote wellness. And then the literature is an optimal health and vitality, encompassing physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, interpersonal, social, and environmental well-being. Now, what is this symbol? Does anyone know what it is and what it represents? And I'll give you a hint. A lot of times when you go to places like spas, yes, a lotus. Hmm. Yes, and it is actually, yes, a symbol for wellness. It represents wellness and well-being. Yep, it is a lotus blossom. And yes, it does also represent Zen. And then some other words that came up were purity, fertility, and the cycle of life, open-heartedness and compassion, transformation and rebirth, spiritual awakening, enlightenment. And next slide. So this is the wellness wheel. And what this is what UNCW has created a program called UNCW Healthy Hogs. And these are the criteria that programs are, well, students have to attend a certain amount of programs in each category. And so when I found out about this, because this is more so for, I guess, general campus, planning and programming. But then I was just like, we do programming in the library too. So why can't we, uh, label as our program as an emotional program or a spiritual program or an intellectual program? And so this will really came in handy when thinking about marketing, programming, spaces, and things like that. Uh, Next slide. So there's so much focus on going to the counseling center or working out at a rec center, but we won't. We want to help students where they are in that moment when their laptops ate their paper. And so one thing Anne was really about is those freak out moments for students. So like when their laptop ate the paper or they just need a moment to just ground themselves. And this is when she started thinking about the library as that other space. Um, and a lot of this conversation happened before COVID-19, but with the increase of mental health need and care. Libraries, I mean, like not like just libraries, but overall, like had to think differently because there was just not enough professionals to meet the demand. And even here on our own campus, at one time we did not have enough counselors to meet the population. And so it was like, well, what can we do? We know that we are not therapists, we can't diagnose, we can't do any of these things, but what can we do to help alleviate? And this is some of the stuff that um, we came up with. And so now we'll go into mindful programming. So these are 4 programs that I am involved with. And as outreach and engagement librarian, I am in charge of all of the library's social programming. What I like to say is the fun stuff. Um, but even though I do crossover and do academic programming, um, because well, here we have Healing Forward. That was an event that we did, and that was a partnership between the music department, um, the social work department, and we had visiting authors. And one of the authors had written a book about healing, and the other faculty members that were involved all did some aspects of healing. And so what we did, this was during the pandemic, and so we did it through Zoom, but the music department was able to um, bring music into our presentation where they recorded a song, and they pieced the video together, and we were able to show it within the virtual event. But also each faculty member and the visiting authors were able to talk about how to heal forward, um, and how to use artistic expression to gain or to access human connection. Make It at Randall. This is an event that we do in the fall for our students. And the primary focus of this event is the question that we ask is, what will you make of your time while you're at UNCW? And so this is a making event, and it involves our digital makerspace, since that's our biggest like making area, but it has extended out to de-stress activities, games, crafting, rock painting, different things that students have come to really enjoy. Then we have programs like the African American Read-In, and we're on our 4th read-in, which is actually coming up February 21st. And this event is another event where we really focused and put intentionality and purpose, and really try to transform this event to something much greater. The first year we was able to have it in person, but the last 2 years it's been virtual. And so this year it's going to be in person and hybrid. So we're hoping as we go along that we can continue to expand this program. And the ultimate goal is to be able to host this off a campus and within the community, and building it and developing it with community partners. But then also being able to share out those resources and services with the community, just saying, hey, we are, even though we are a campus library, we're still a service to the community. And then Recharge at Randall is our end of the semester final exam event where we do a bunch of de-stress activities. We have therapy dogs. I go around with a cart full of snacks, and I have like places donate snacks like insomnia cookies and um, what else? Games. Students can win prizes and things. So it's just a whole way of making the library fun. Um, and my whole thing is like, lead with the fun stuff, and then you can uh, offer them the other things that the library has to offer on the back end. Let's see. Now we get into some pictures. So programming for students, faculty, and staff and community to foster healing, learning, loving, and growth. And I feel like all of this is to student success. And it's just not for students, but this could be for, yourself. It could be for uh, young people in the community. It just depends on where you work. It could work in, a public library. But these are some of the things that we just team up with people, and students were able to, like at the Make It event, students were able to make screen print canvas bags. Like I said, the therapy dogs. The young ladies down here are using Buddha boards. And if you're not familiar what a Buddha board is, it's a little drawing tool, but you have a brush and you dip it in water, and it stays on there for maybe about 45 seconds, maybe up to a minute. But it's just about the whole movement of and the flow of just doing something and moving your hands. This is the sweet trolley that I said that would go around during exams. And one side it has like office supplies, pencils, note cards, and then the other side is just full of snacks. I do things like button making. And now I actually want to like talk about our collaborations. And this goes to mention earlier when someone threw out, or I think there are actually multiple people threw out self-care. And self-care is how you take your power back. Again, going back to a word from earlier, self-care is something that you deliberately have to do. And it's something that we can only do for ourselves. Now, this is one of my favorites, creating opportunities for students to teach other students. And so this is as you can see in the background, this is our retreat at Randall Space. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But first I want to talk about our origami classes that we offer in our retreat space. And the young lady that you see standing in the gray cardigan, her name is Charlie, and she's a UNCW student, and she just loves origami. And my supervisor ran into her one day and saw her making paper cranes, and introduced her to me. And now we've developed a partnership where she has come and helped me with several programs to help students use origami as a way to ground themselves, to be calm, or just even just to learn a new hobby or a new craft or a new activity. Now, this one here is one of my favorite events. It's called Mindful Tea Tasting. And I was very fortunate to meet the young lady that's standing up here, her name is Megan, and she was a temporary employee here at UNCW, and she said, "Hey, um, what do you think about mindful tea tasting?" And I was like, "Of course, like, what do you mean? Like, my," but then she broke it down for me, and it's really about intentionality, and it's literally breaking down each step of the process of making a cup of tea, and um, and actually being present, you know, from heating up the water, listening to the water bubble or steam, um, to pouring the water into the cup and feeling the warmth of the mug, asking questions like, does the first sip of the tea taste exactly how it smells? And then having conversation based around that. Also, I asked participants in this class before we start is to set an intention for themselves. Um, it could be something short term or it could be something long term, but write it down. I had them write it down on a post-it, and then and then I tell them like keep it and then open it up a few months later or a few weeks later, and see if you're still um, on track, with that um, uh, certain intention. Then these are some other programs that we've offered. It's like gentle yoga, and this was like through campus recreation. Um, so say if this was a public library, this could be something with parks and recreation. Um, I've done a program called just desserts. Stress spelled backwards is desserts. And all I give out is information about stress, mindfulness, um, relaxation, um, how to beat procrastination, those type things, while also giving out cookies, candy, and whatever good things that we have. I told you about mindful tea tasting and origami. Introspective art, that was just pretty much like art journaling. And that was, I want to say, through the counseling center, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but then building all these different partnerships across campus and asking, what resources do you have pertaining to mindfulness and wellness? How can the library support uh, any initiatives that you're doing? Um, how can we take what we're doing and what you're doing and then make it even bigger and better? Um, and so, like I said here, collaborations are paramount. Each campus unit must play a positive role to ensure its students' well-being and success. And here I'm speaking a campus, but you can take campus out and you can put community. Um, and I still feel like it will resonate the same. Some mindful apps that I've used or shared in our some spaces. So it's like Spotify creating a wellness or mindfulness playlist that you can share with your patrons. Or you can have your patrons share with the library things that they like or songs that they like and create a library playlist that then you can share out with the patrons. And then that's a collective effort. There's free apps like Headway um, that can help far as if you're looking for reading or information about mindfulness. And then there is a paid feature in there, but there's a lot of cool free stuff as well. And one app that I really like to use is Motivation. And it gives quotes. Well, you can select what you want to see, but it gives quotes, affirmations, um, let's see, other stuff about mindfulness, but it's like 50 different categories you can pick from. Then this is something that I really enjoy using. And if you've never heard of it before, it's Padlet. And Padlet is what I use to um, help market our e-collection. And it's a platform where you can post different things. And so what I do is I'll go find the book cover, put in the name, and then I'll use a permalink, and I'll link the permalink to um, the text. And then once someone clicks on that, it will take them to the catalog. And of course, it will ask them for their credentials to log in. But whenever I use the link that's created from Padlet, I always add wherever I post it is you would have to, in order to access, you have to use your UNCW login credentials. But this is a way that has helped us connect, but also promote our e-collection in a different way. And let's see. This is Dropmark. Is pretty much a tool for bookmarking. However, I was able to turn it into a what I call the virtual Zen den. And I used it for different de-stress events. And share it with students and say, or here, if you need affirmations, here are affirmations. If you just want to watch videos of cute animals, here you go. If you want to do focused breathing, yoga, and so forth. And Dropmark really allowed me to be able to create this. So let's share some mindful marketing that we did. Being very intentional about the graphics and things that we select, try to be intentional about wording and overall aesthetics. And, just trying to be creative, engaging. The key thing for me in all of it is being intentional. And using, again, QR codes in different ways. We use foam core and printed out the book cover and have some information down here, and then added a QR code. And within our mindfulness and wellness space, I have those in there, book displays, and teaming up with different organizations or even our cultural centers, creating resources for all the different places on campus that if a student is in crisis or if a person's in crisis, they can access this information. And some marketing a lot with QR codes. And this one is to our streaming video service. And so for Halloween, market our scary or horror suspense movies this way as well, but then also creating a Padlet, sharing out our e-resources. This was Halloween during COVID. So creating goodie bags, but putting little notes, in there. It's like, be safe, mask up, and enjoy. And then for Recharge, our finals event, good luck on your exams. We believe in you. You got this. Some for social media, posting in like newsletters, for promotional stuff for our space, Retreat at Randall. So mindful spaces. And this is the section all about Retreat at Randall. But this comes from UNCW Randall Library's Associate Provost and Dean of the Library, Dr. Lucy Holman. She said this in a speech during our groundbreaking ceremony several months back, and it really resonated with me. And he says a library really serves as a third space, as in third only to one's home and one's work, as a place to gather, share ideas, and find community. And since we are getting close to time, I won't spend a lot of time here, but there are links at the end of the presentation for a lot of the resources and things that I use. But a lot of psychological restoration, bibliophilic design, and attention restorative therapy. It is a lot of bringing the outdoors in and figuring out ways to do that naturally. And in a lot of cases, it is with actual plants and real like finishes like wood and things like that. But unfortunately, the retreat at Randall has no windows. So there wasn't really any way to incorporate real plants. But we were able to use some artificial plants. We tried to bring nature in through the art and stuff that was selected for the room. This is a space for our students, faculty and staff. They can use this space to take a break, to pause, meditate, yoga, do reflective exercises. This is a space where you can have a better view of the space where in the back area, that's where yoga and stuff happens. In the middle area is typically where I would host programs. And there are different seating options. And there's a wood sculpture on the wall. And one of the things that I am working on, and it just was approved yesterday, is I'm working with a grad student to create a collaborative art project that will happen in this space. So faculty, staff, and students that can come in and fill in a large wall size mandala on plexiglass. I'm looking forward to see how this comes out. But this is like the idea of Zen dens, but then I feel like it was, taking it up a notch. So I always call it the Zen Zone 2.0. Because I always felt like students needed an alternative space to just sometimes you just need a place to chill or just to regroup, and I feel like this space offers a lot of that. So then showing more what's in of stuff that's in the space. They can bead making, positive cards, affirmation, Legos, connects, kinetic sand, bean bags, and so forth. And then also in our library, we do have other spaces. We have our children's space. It used to not look this nice, and it was on the second floor, but now we've moved it downstairs. And one of the goals here is to be more accessible to the community and to be more community focused and using this space. One of my goals in the future is to be able to offer story time, not only for faculty, staff, and students with kids, but also community members. And then also to show them our collection as well. We do a lot of intentional things with art here. This was an installment here. This one here was an artist named Derek Holter, and she did a statue here on campus, but the library also was like, hey, you know, the statue's not going to be too far from the library. It's like literally across, like you can see it from the library. And so like, let's see if we can purchase some artwork from her. And she's also illustrated a couple of children's books as well. And so we were able to purchase those, a few pieces of art. And she also, if I'm not mistaken, I believe she gave us a couple of free pieces too. And then this is when I mentioned earlier about the groundbreaking. The library, our library is going through a renovation and expansion. The current library, I think, is 150,000 square feet. But now we're getting a 80 or 85,000 square feet addition um, to the current building. And so a lot of in design was talking about, the intentionality um, of like how are things going to be placed? Are there going to be gardens? Where should natural light come in and all of that stuff? And let's see. We'll for now we'll skip this poll. Um, but what because I do want to leave a little time for if anyone has any questions. But this is the main reason why I do the work that I do. And this was left behind from a student who attended one of my programs. It said, "Why try when I hate my major? Plus, it won't take me anywhere. I want to be in life. I would rather do art than science and math for the rest of my rest of my life, but I am not good enough to get anywhere with my art alone. So I hide behind science." And it was a moment like I resonated with something personal with that in myself because I chose a lot of other things over my own personal art. And so um, I felt that deeply, but then I also to be able to allow a student or to give the student the tools to express themselves in this way and to get it out. Um, I feel like that's huge. I don't know exactly what the student felt after expressing all of this, but me walking up and reading it, you know, it made me like, I understand the struggle. I understand your frustration. Um, and if I had actually saw the person, I would say still, um, pursue what you're pursuing, but don't let your art go. If it brings you joy and it brings you happiness, then that should definitely be a part of your life. All right. So now we are at the end of the presentation. If anyone have any questions for me, but also there's a survey. And at the end of the survey, there is a spot where you can, if you have questions for me, um, just write your question in that area and along with your email address, and I will respond. All right. So I hope you all enjoyed today's presentation. I hope that you were able to get some ideas that you could possibly take back to your institution. Um, And again, thank you for having me and thank you for spending this time with me today.
Thank you so much, Chris.
You're very welcome. Happy to
Yeah.
do it.
Yes, thank you. And just so impressed with the work that you're doing. I can just feel how authentic it is and how much you care. And
Right. Thank you.
that's important to feel that. And yes, and definitely folks fill out that survey and connect with Chris afterwards if you have questions.
Right. And let me also put that link in the chat too, in case. So that's the survey link.
Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you all for attending today. We'll be sharing out the slides, all the resources, as well as recordings from today. So pass along to your colleagues, anyone that may be interested in the presentations today. All right, well, I will stop recording and end the meeting, but thank you all again so much for attending today's workshop.